Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of the 9 unknown men, ancient India's secret society that may still exist. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In 261 BC, the Emperor Ashoka of India surveyed the aftermath of the Battle of Kalinga and counted approximately 100,000 dead. The scale of the carnage so shattered the conqueror that he renounced warfare permanently, converted to Buddhism, and according to a legend that has persisted for decades in esoteric literature, established a secret society of 9 scholars charged with guarding 9 books of knowledge too dangerous for humanity to possess. The 9 unknown men were described in detail by British Indian author Talbot Mundy in his 1923 novel of the same name. Mundy claimed he drew on genuine Indian esoteric traditions. In 1960, French authors Louis Pauwels and Jacques Bergier cited the group as historical fact in their internationally best-selling The Morning of the Magicians, treating the 9 unknown as a real and still active secret society. The 9 books they supposedly guard cover propaganda, physiology, microbiology, alchemy, communication, gravity, cosmology, light, and sociology, effectively the complete inventory of knowledge that could be weaponized. Ashoka's transformation from conqueror to pacifist is thoroughly documented in his own rock edicts, inscribed across the Indian subcontinent in multiple languages. The secret society built upon that transformation, however, appears in none of those edicts and in no ancient primary source. Did Talbot Mundy invent the 9 unknown men entirely, or was he preserving a tradition that had survived 2,000 years in the margins of Indian history? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the landscape of modern documented mysteries, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. Governments keep secrets. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is documented fact, confirmed by declassified archives, freedom of information disclosures, and the confessions of officials long after the events in question. The United States government ran secret programs to test psychedelic drugs on unwitting civilians culture, to spy on its own citizens, COINTELPRO, and to cover up nuclear testing incidents that killed American soldiers. The British government suppressed information about UFO encounters by military personnel for decades. The Soviet Union systematically falsified scientific data to maintain ideological conformity. None of this means that every government secret involves supernatural phenomena or alien contact. The reality of classified programs is almost always more mundane. Military technology being tested covertly, intelligence operations that cannot be publicly acknowledged, or simply the bureaucratic instinct to classify first and justify later. Most UFO sightings that turn out to have official explanations were classified aircraft. Most government denials of anomalous phenomena are straightforwardly honest. The phenomena being denied are simply not real. But the documented history of government secrecy has a practical effect on investigative credibility. When officials deny knowledge of events that witnesses describe in compelling detail, that denial cannot be taken at face value without independent corroboration. The proven track record of institutional concealment means that institutional denial, however authoritative it sounds, is not the same as evidence of absence. This complicates every modern mystery that touches on official narrative. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter. The core evidence surrounding the 9 unknown men, ancient India's secret society that may still exist, is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. Ashoka Maurya reigned as Emperor of India from approximately 268 to 232 BC, controlling a territory stretching from modern Afghanistan to Bengal. His conquest of the Kalinga region in 261 BC resulted in an estimated 100,000 battlefield deaths and 150,000 deportations. Figures recorded in Ashoka's own 13th Rock Edict, the most candid accounting of military devastation written by any ruler of the ancient world. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly, it is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered, following the Kalinga War, Ashoka converted to Buddhism and dedicated the remainder of his reign to promoting Dhamma, righteous conduct. He erected pillars and rock edicts across the subcontinent in Prakrit, Greek, and Aramaic, built hospitals for people and animals, prohibited animal sacrifice, and sent Buddhist missionaries to Sri Lanka, Central Asia, and the Mediterranean. His conversion is the single best documented personal transformation in ancient political history. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. Talbot Mundy, born William Lancaster Gribben in London in 1879, published The 9 Unknown as a novel in 1923. Mundy had spent years in India and claimed to have encountered genuine esoteric traditions during his travels. His novel described a secret society founded by Ashoka that was still active in the 20th century, guarding 9 books of forbidden knowledge. He presented it not as pure invention, but as fiction built on factual ground. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, in 1960, Louis Pauwels and Jacques Bergier published The Morning of the Magicians, an internationally best-selling work that treated several esoteric traditions as potentially factual. The book devoted significant space to the 9 unknown men, citing them as a real and still active secret society whose members had allegedly supplied scientific breakthroughs to certain 20th century researchers without attribution. It sold millions of copies and carried the legend far beyond specialist circles. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of the 9 books the 9 unknown men purportedly guard are said to cover 9 distinct domains of dangerous knowledge: propaganda and psychological warfare, physiology, including the ability to kill with a single touch, microbiology, alchemy, communication, gravity, cosmology, light, and sociology, including mechanisms of societal collapse. The specificity of the list and its mid-20th century flavor suggests modern invention rather than ancient tradition. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding: Indian esoteric and philosophical traditions contain the concept of hidden masters, enlightened beings who guide human development while remaining invisible to ordinary society. The Theosophical Society, founded in 1875, popularized this idea in the West through its concept of the Mahatmas. Whether Mundy encountered genuine oral traditions about an Ashokan secret society or adapted the hidden masters concept from Theosophy remains impossible to determine from the available historical record. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations. And in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the 9 unknown men, ancient India's secret society that may still exist. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that a genuine secret society was founded by Ashoka in the 3rd century BC to guard dangerous knowledge from misuse. Louis Pauwels and Jacques Bergier asserted this in The Morning of the Magicians, 1960, claiming the group had operated continuously for over 2,000 years. No primary source document, no ancient Indian text, no imperial edict, no chronicle makes any reference to such a society, making this claim impossible to evaluate on historical grounds. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that Talbot Mundy invented the 9 unknown men as a literary device, drawing on the theosophical concept of hidden masters and setting the origin in Ashoka's reign, because Ashoka's dramatic conversion provided a psychologically compelling founding moment. This is the consensus view of literary historians and scholars of Indian history. It requires no cover-up. A novelist borrowed from esoteric tradition to create an adventure premise, and later writers treated fiction as established fact. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that Ashoka's real institutional activities provide a template for the legend without requiring any secret society. He founded Buddhist institutions, funded monasteries, suppressed certain Brahmanical practices, and gathered scholars. The legend of the 9 unknown men may be a mythologization of these documented activities, elevated over centuries of retelling into a secret protective brotherhood guarding forbidden science. A common pattern in the growth of esoteric tradition worldwide. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the 9 unknown men, ancient India's secret society that may still exist, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes no ancient primary source, no Ashokan edict, no Buddhist chronicle, no Sanskrit text of any period makes any reference to the 9 unknown men or to a secret society founded by Ashoka. His 13th rock edict records his remorse over Kalinga, his conversion to Buddhism, and his commitment to non-violence in precise detail, but contains nothing resembling a directive to establish a custodianship of dangerous knowledge. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented Mundy's 1923 novel is the earliest identifiable source for the 9 unknown men as a named group with a specific founding date and purpose. The trail from Mundy to Pauwels and Bergier to the global conspiracy community is traceable and unbroken. Literary scholars who have studied Mundy's Indian writings note his tendency to present romantic inventions as retrieved esoteric truths, a common device of Orientalist fiction of the era. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed Ashoka's genuine historical significance is remarkable without embellishment. His network of institutions, multilingual rock edicts, and dispatch of missionaries across Asia laid the groundwork for the spread of Buddhism that persists today. Scholars of Mauryan India, including Ramila Thapar, whose biography of Ashoka is considered definitive, treat the 9 unknown men as fiction with no surviving tradition that predates Mundy's novel. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the 9 unknown men, ancient India's secret society that may still exist. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. No credible evidence for the 9 unknown men has emerged from any direction, archaeological, archival, or oral. The group remains a staple of Indian popular culture, conspiracy communities, and alternative history publishing, largely because the underlying story of Ashoka is so genuinely extraordinary that a secret society built around it feels plausible. Ashoka's actual transformation from one of antiquity's most ruthless conquerors to a ruler who publicly lamented his own wars in stone is a story remarkable enough to stand without embellishment. Scholars of Mauryan India continue to study his edicts and institutional legacy without finding any trace of a protective secret brotherhood. The 9 unknown men are, by all available evidence, Talbot Mundy's invention, but the emperor who inspired them was entirely real. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the 9 unknown men, ancient India's secret society that may still exist from the historical record, through the physical evidence across the competing theories and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of 9 unknown men ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.